Hey folks, it says we're live, so sound off in the chat if we're actually live and this is actually working. Because once again, I've changed what I'm doing, and I'm hoping you guys are actually able to see all of this as we do our thing. So happy Monday, everyone. I hope you guys are having a wonderful. I had a great weekend, had a wonderful day. We didn't do much this weekend, actually. The kids and I mostly just stayed home. We dropped by the studio for a little bit and just cleaned really and tidied up everything I was doing on Friday and got ready for today. It's been just miserably rainy. Like, I wanted to actually like do all my leaves, get all my leaves like bagged up and put away because they're finally down, and like do a bunch of yard work, but it ended up just being gross outside. So we just hung out. We cooked good food and hung out and did very little, which was kind of nice. So it's Monday. It is the 4th of December, 2023. And I did a bunch of editing. I shouldn't say I did nothing. I did like a bunch of like catching up on editing. I have a couple of videos I haven't edited yet. I experimented with some like mixed editing styles again. I got a bunch of stuff set up in the back, and I got a new camera that I'm starting to play with, which will be interesting. And then I got a couple extra things to do. I edited the Call of Cthulhu video which you guys saw, which I love these mics. These are studio mics. These are like designed for like the shotgun mics are designed for doing like recording like audio for bands and instruments and acoustics. Like you can put these on a bunch of like a stage setup. But they're very sensitive. They're very good mics. The Rode mics tend to be, they do more than you need them to, and then you dial them back to what you want them to do. But it does mean that they were picking up, there was some kind of feedback coming from my Chromebook when we were doing the Call of Cthulhu Grimdark Media that I had to like fight to get out. And it wasn't present during the talking. So it was like a slight audio like tick. It wasn't present during the talking, but it was present during all the pauses. And so if that audio doesn't sound quite as good as the Astartes one, it's because I had to cut that frequency out basically to get rid of all of this like weird ticking. So once again, I need to like pause. It happened too. That's why I have to keep my phone like far away from the mics as well. So I'm considering ditching these mics for like a standard like podcasting mic setup that are a bit more limited, but they do the one thing really well, like those SMB7 Shure mics. They're the most popular podcasting mic right now. The Rode NT1 is the other mic that's really popular, which is more because it's more like this. It does more than it needs to, and then you dial it back. And they're cheaper too, so I might go with the NT1s. I might go with the Shures. The Shures are really compact, which is why they're nice for podcasting. Like I don't need these pop filters and stuff on them. They're designed to cut that stuff out automatically. I don't know. It's again just about dialing stuff in. I've had these Rode mics forever. They're band mics. And getting extra use out of them finally was nice, but if they're not fit for purpose, because I can't know if I bring something new into the room, if all of a sudden the audio is going to have this weird latency, which will suck. So anyway, just fighting with that stuff. What else did we do? We did some ITS 15 games, and then this weekend I am playing my first like full 1,000-point games of Legions Imperialis with Rob. He's gone off to paint some of the Solar Auxilia with like, so we're doing it opposite. I'm doing Marines with like Solar Auxilia support. He's doing Solar Auxilia with like Marine support. So he's doing Night Lords with like their fodder, and I'm doing Sons of Horus with my like allies basically, and we're gonna do some games this weekend. So I got to paint all the terrain this week, which you'll see on Work in Progress Wednesday, and finish up a few more units for my first 1,000 points of Sons of Horus, which should be fun. Let's see who's here. We've got Seth Draylock's here, Jim Crimmins is here, Paul Shorten's here, Gizmo Math Boy's here. He said, hey, not as much light washing you out. Yeah, finally, I had to get a proper capture card for the older professional like camcorders, the older cannons that I have, which again is one of the other things I need to replace. I need to replace these cannons for the studio part. They're fine for in here, but they have way more like ability to control the lighting. So you can see I'm not all like blown out and washed out right now, which is nice. And it lets me do like a secondary backup because I'm not just on a webcam now too. I can record this in parallel. So I'm not using what's uploaded to YouTube now when this comes out. So for all you watching this in the future, when this goes live on YouTube, you're going to see a much better, way less latent recording because it's not just recording the stream. I'm recording this in parallel basically, and I'll just edit it and throw it up too, which is nice. Zug1974 says, "Woot, made it to a live show. Go you." Ralph Schumann says, "Hey, from Germany. Winter's here with cold and snow, but it won't last long, probably. It's true." And then Daniel Sprinkles here with Alan Newdall, and they both say, "Hi. Hi, guys. I hope you guys are having a great day." So that was pretty much what's been going on, like this past weekend and what's coming up for the week. What else do I have in my notes here? Yeah, playing with cameras, recording. Work in Progress Wednesday is going to be all Horus Heresy this week. Oh, and sorry, tomorrow Jay's coming in, and we're doing 2 more Grimdark Medias. As we said, we were doing The Last of Us, which is going to be Last of Us, specifically The Last of Us Part 2, not The Last of Us Part 1, because I got to pick this month for game, or for this series for game, and I decided I was going to do that. And then Jay gets to pick film right now, and because The Last of Us Part 2 completes the game cycle part of it, and then Jay gets to pick the film for December, and I get to pick the literature for December. And you guys get to pick the game, which, by the way, for all the patrons, the patron-produced portion of Grimdark Media, the poll is up now, so go get your votes in on what piece of game media we're doing for December, because we have to like hurry up and actually film these because we missed a week, so we're doing 2 at a time. But Jay picked Event Horizon as his film for us to do. So get excited. I'm watching Event Horizon again tonight and making my notes. And then tomorrow we're doing the recording for Event Horizon, which will be very fun. So I played through The Last of Us Part 2 last week in preparation for this, and I've got all my notes done for it. And then Event Horizon is going to be the film, which I think is completely appropriate and a very Jay movie. And it's funny because I was like, I don't know where my copy of Event Horizon is. I'll have to like try and stream it. And it's only available to like buy or stream right now on any streaming service. But then Jay just texted me a picture of the DVD. He's like, "How do you not know where you're?" Like, this is next to my bed. I always have a copy of Event Horizon around. It's one of those, when I just need my moment of Sam Neill, I have at the month, or in the month of madness at Event Horizon, ready at like any moment. So he's got his Event Horizon like sitting right there, which is very funny. Who else is here? Matt Tarpley's here. He said, "Hey, I spaced out. Sorry, I'm late." This isn't your job, man. You don't have to apologize for being late. It's all good. And then Jim Kerman says, "So you're saying there's a background noise on the Call of Cthulhu discussion that's not coming from you? Does this noise give you the nightmares of monoliths and great stirrings in the deep?" Yeah, it's true. It's appropriate that like a weird signal from beyond is happening. No, but I know it was my Chromebook because we also recorded the final part of the RPJ for that week, which you'll see the first part of RPJ on Thursday this week and the next part next week. Where we did this like this one-shot adventure from Mantic, and there's no audio signal. There's no problem on that one, and my Chromebook's gone. So it's like an elimination diet when you introduce something new and you're like, "What's going on here?" Oh, it was this object that was clearly sitting next to my microphone, and now it's gone and there's no noise. It was definitely the Chromebook. So it's just, I don't know. It's just sensitive mics and feedback stuff, and you gotta wonder what's going on. Kevin Trader said, "Event Horizon scared me so bad as a kid. I don't care if it doesn't hold up. I will always love it." I'm going to be honest. It holds right up. The cast for the movie is amazing. It's got Sam Neill being a real Sam Neill. It's got, oh shoot, what's the other guy's name? My favorite, like, that guy actor who's in everything. And then it's got my 2 favorite British that guy actors. When you're like, "Oh yeah, it's that guy." What's his name? Jack Noseworthy. He plays Baby Bear. He's in so many things. He's in Below. He's in like so many movies in that era in the 90s, like horror movies. And Jason Isaacs being a real Jason Isaac. I love Jason Isaac. I think I love Jason Isaac the most in Black Hawk Down, but I love Jason Isaac in this movie too. And then of course Sean Pertwee, who's, Mother Superior in Trainspotting, and like the Sergeant and Dog Soldiers. Just a fantastic movie. So. Before he did Resident Evil, he did Event Horizon. It's Paul W.S. Anderson before he became the Mia Jovovich director. Before he married Mia Jovovich, he was making all kinds of different movies, and this was the big one, which I'm super excited about. Gizmo Math Boy says, "Yeah, Event Horizon was disturbing even as an adult. I think I've only watched it one time after I saw it in theaters." It's funny. I've watched it like 1,000 times because it's one of those horror movies where like. It's like The Thing. If it's on, I'm not doing anything for the next 90 minutes. Like, or the Royal Tenenbaums. If I hear Royal Tenenbaum bought the house at Archer Street in the winter of his 35th year, if I hear that line, then I'm not actually moving from the spot I'm in for the next like 90 minutes. I'm just going to be stuck where I am watching that film. Because for some reason I just there's films that like suck me in, and I have to watch the entire thing. So let's go, and so for folks who couldn't be here, let's go and take some questions from. And I'm like so conscious of like this phone being not too close to everything. Let's go take some questions from the patrons in the patron questionnaire. And see what's up. I tried to like, I went and curated these because I may actually ask like twice as many questions. I'm trying to make sure that they're as curated as possible, because people sometimes ask like 2-3 questions in a row. I'm trying to make sure I delete the right ones. Tomek H from Poland says, I recently moved to a new house and I'm super lucky to have a dedicated hobby room in my attic, but I find it really hard to get up there after a long day. Part of the problem is the room itself, which still isn't finished and feels uncomfortable. Any tips on how to make the room cozy and more comfortable? All your construction renovation projects look so simple, and the space you created looks super nice. With a nice room, I'm sure I'll want to hobby and paint more. I'll be honest, the changing up this space has been the best quality of life improvement for me, and like getting... Oh, I also owe you guys a studio video because I didn't have a chance to make it last week. But getting the back space finished into like a work area, and this space finished into like a writing area and work area and like shooting area. I completely understand what you're saying. Wanting to be in the space you're working in is such a huge productivity change for me. Like coming in here and spending the morning, like I'll make my space feel good before I'll start working. I get more work done. Because I'm not distracted by like, oh, I really want to clean that. I really want to move that around. I really got to water that plant. Like I get this like little ritual of like what I want to do before I start being productive. And it makes me more productive. Like I have more work to do, but I've also made more things in more ways and gotten more done. Like balancing the renovations with like the film and like the hangout with you guys and the editing, and like because it's all me. So if I don't actually like budget my time, like I got one of these actually. These are fantastic if you've never had these before. They're like just a little weekly planner. You get them at the dollar store. I fill out a page on Mondays right before I go live with you guys, and then just like check things off during the course of the week, and then I'll add things to the next week if I need to. But doing that little like ritual like makes me get more work done. So I've already gotten a whole bunch of things done today because I had like 2 hours in the morning after I dropped the kids off at school, and I got my space organized. So the first thing is have a space for the thing you're going to do. Don't try and have a space for everything, if that makes sense. One of the things I realized is because I had one small space for trying to do everything in, I needed to like compartmentalize. So if you're going to have the space be for gaming, or for like make it a gaming space, if you're going to have the space be for like your hobby stuff, which is like building and painting and like that part, have it be for that. Don't try and cram them on top of each other, because I think and that might mean cutting something out and letting go of it. Like having your playing space become like the gaming store or like the club or like whatever that ends up being. Don't try and put things on top of each other, because they get in each other's way, and you're less likely to want to do one thing if you have to like tear down and pack up the other. And that was what this change up for me, I think, really helped. And 2, realize that all the stuff in your space can be stuff that makes you happy, not necessarily like all the gaming shit doesn't have to go in the gaming space, and all of the movie stuff doesn't have to go somewhere else. And like you can have pictures of your kids up there, or your friends, or music you like, or you know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to just be about one thing. And then I consciously made the space like a dark color, because it made it feel more like, to me, that's more welcoming. I don't know what that is about me, that like having my walls be painted like charcoal black and like a weird like moody blue makes me happy and makes me want to be in that space more, but it does. And I don't know what that says about me, but that's just the way it is. Make the room be a room you would want to be in anyway, I guess, is the short story long that I'm doing right now. And if it is, then you will be more productive inside that space because you'll be comfortable inside that space. So like being able to like listen to music and make a coffee, and be surrounded by like things that make me happy, like plants and my records and, you know, like art that I like and the books that I like. Yeah, that makes me more productive because when I come into the space, I'm already in a good mood, and it's like helped me to focus to do those things. So there's my first thought on that. My very long rambling thought on that. Next question. So this one's from Jim Crimmins in New York, who's actually in the chat. Do you have any more plans for Steel Rift expansions or content in the future, or do you prefer to create new games and settings? So I do. I have lots of plans for it. My big thing with Steel Rift is not mine. Steel Rift is Austin and the Deathray guys' game. Like, that's hard for some people to, I think, maybe wrap their brains around. It's not my game. It's a game I wrote for them. And so what I'm kind of trying to do right now is support them making stuff for it. It's not that I want to move on to new things, although I am most excited when I'm making new things, but this was specifically a thing I wrote for them, for their miniature line and for their models, and I don't want to be in the way of them making things for it, so I'm trying not to steward it, and I'm trying to be more like a person that supports them making stuff for it going forward. Because I think that's important, because then it's their thing, right? Like, to me, Steel Rift is, am I able to like walk away from something? Like, am I able to make something that's cool that like is a great foundational piece of work for someone else to then build off of? That'll make me really happy, is if Austin and the boys at Deathray take Steel Rift and make it their own thing and are able to like walk it forward and keep like producing stuff for it that they like and that lets them make models and be creative and be inspired, then I did a good job with Steel Rift. And that meant not doing too much stuff for it necessarily, but giving it like a solid like launch plate to like add to and add to and add to. That's where I'm at with Steel Rift. So not that I'm not going to do anything with it. What I'm really excited for is when someone else that isn't me, like when Austin writes something for it and they develop it, then I'm going to feel comfortable playing it more, if that makes sense. Because I won't be so like caught up in like, oh, I made this thing and I feel weird promoting it. Like, because the one thing I'm the worst at is promoting my own stuff. You guys know that about me. I would rather spend time playing someone else's game and making it exciting and helping them be successful with it than I ever do playing my own games, which is, I don't know. It just feels like I feel a responsibility to do that, I guess is what I'm saying, as opposed to just continuously saying like, go buy my shit. Look at how cool my shit is. No, I like making my stuff and I'll keep adding to it. But at the same time, I have that like mental block of like, well, if it's good, someone else will do that. Like someone else will get excited about it and make content for it. So what's going on in the chat? Matt says, I love that when weird shit starts happening in Event Horizon, Fishburne was like, we need to get out of here instead of doing the standard horror movie thing. Yeah, that is one of my favorite Larry Fishburne moments. He's like, this place is a tomb. We're leaving. And Sam Neill's like, no, it's interesting. Let's go look at stuff. And he's just like, nope, we're going. Bye. Out of here. This is terrible. Like, he's just so blue collar about it, which is fantastic. Underscore 333 says, good mashup of media event Tenenbaums. Well, I mean, he like it actually kind of makes sense. This like terrible thing from years ago shows up after years and then completely blows up a group of people. Like the Event Horizon and Royal Tenenbaum are the same inciting incident in both of those films, if you think about it, right? He's this like terrible thing that comes back and tries to like, you know, infect his family basically, and does successfully. And then the Event Horizon does the same thing. There's more Venn diagram crossover between those two properties than I think might at first thought be there. Kevin Trader says the shuttle they travel to Space Hulk in is one of my favorite ship interiors. Absolutely. There's a lot of like. What's weirdly cool, and we'll probably end up talking about because I don't want to give away the ending and all my thoughts on it, but like I think there's a lot in Event Horizon, not just from like a writing point of view, but also from like a design point of view that's very cribbed. There's a lot of cribbing happening there. Matt says, yeah, lack of a dedicated painting space and the need to tear down resets the main killer in my painting productivity. Honestly, it's why most of my painting gets done at home because I have all my painting stuff just like under the coffee table in the living room, and I'll pull it out and paint while we're watching a movie or watching, like I can paint with the kids hanging out with me while we're watching something. Underscore says, totally get not wanting to show for your own stuff, but you owe it to yourself to let people know about the hard work you do. Yeah, I mean, I definitely do. And then when I feel like compelled to do that stuff, then I make a point of like doing it, and then I step back from it and I do things for other people. Kevin Trader says Wes Anderson equals pastel grimdark. Yeah, I'm into it. Yeah, it's not, there's some like Isle of Dogs is pretty grim. If you watch Isle of Dogs, it's a very dark film, and has lots of that in it. All right, Andrew Birch from Portland, Oregon says, any chance of you guys ever seeing play more games than Mini Wargaming guys? Way back when I remember Steve playing you and Owen. Would be cool if you played a game with Josh. I mean, maybe. The thing is that we're all so busy, right? Like, I imagine they have to fill their weekly schedule. Like, it takes all of them to produce the content that they produce, and it takes all of me to produce the content I produce. So, like, it's not really for lack of desire. It's more just, I think we're all just very busy with what we do. But yeah, I would absolutely. I miss Steve. He was a great like work buddy. Jason Wagner, currently in Singapore, says, when I was 8 years old, a friend of my mother gave me the original AD&D Monster Manual as a birthday gift. That book was the pebble that started the avalanche of gaming life. It's been my life. What was my pebble? Oh, it's right here. I'm gonna knock a bunch of things over. Oh no, don't do it. I dropped a model. Oh, hopefully it was a one-piece model. That's okay. It was this right here. Whoa. It was the Warlock of Firetop Mountain. I discovered this in my I think my school library, while I was banished in the middle of like a harsh grade 3 or 4 winter because I got caught fighting. And I was sentenced for 30 days to sit next to the flagpole at every recess in the middle of winter. And so I found these, and I would take them out to the library, and I would read these. And this had an advert for Citadel Miniatures in the back. Your quest is over, paragraph 400. And there was an advertisement for Citadel Miniatures and for Games Workshop, and I discovered that, and that was it. That was where I started putting 2 and 2 together about the tabletop hobby. That was my inciting incident, was discovering fighting fantasy novels. I became obsessed with this color, this like chroma key. Oh, actually, sorry, it's not on this one. Oh, it's not, because I have first edition, so these ones don't have it, but there was like a chroma key green color on the spine, and I became like capable of like hunting that out in like used bookstores and bookstores everywhere. So these Puffin books, and generally like every Scholastic book fair, was when I was the most excited to find stuff, and I loved these books. These were like it for me. They taught me that 2 dice, a pencil, and eraser was my gateway to adventure. Keith Razowski from Ontario says, Game Wolves or Steel With, which one should I promote in my area? I mean, Steel Rift is more probably what people expect from a miniature game these days. Gamma Wolves is more of a throwback warband miniature game, but with robots. So I would say that Steel Rift is probably more accessible if you're trying to find people at the local gaming store to play with you, simply because it feels more like, I think, a modern miniature game, whereas Gamma Wolves is more about like creating your own cool bespoke robots and then having like warband adventures with them. You can't play pickup games of Gamma Wolves, if that makes sense, as easily as you can play pickup games of, like, you have to run a campaign to play Gamma Wolves. Steel Rift, you can just play a pickup game of. The game just generates a mission for you, and then you can just throw down and 6mm mechs or 6mm mechs, right? You can find models for it. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Nick Butler says, joining late because of work, back from an awesome dragon meet. I didn't meet any other GMG members, but Osprey is well represented. That's awesome. Good old Osprey. Glad they were there. And then Dario Tomter from Norway says, my mind is constantly racing between what games to play and painting projects to focus on, which becomes frustrating since I then don't fully commit to one gaming project. If I find that my motivation often drops after getting the ball rolling on a project, and I'm off to the next thing that catches my interest. If you, Ash, were to stage a hypothetical intervention, how would that play out, and or what sage advice would you give to get my hobbying back on track? Okay, so this is my number one trick for focusing on something to get it done. You have to commit to having the loop repeat. You have to have a deadline for when you go through the cycle of build, paint, play, build, paint, play, build, paint, play. One of the best things for keeping me on track for various projects, one of the reasons I'm, for instance, like, why am I so prolific at indie games is Jay and I will commit to, we have a weekly hangout, right? Same with Jordan and I. Jordan and I have a weekly hangout. We will make a plan, stick to the plan, and then deliver. And part of delivering that project, of getting it finished to like play, is you're not letting the other person down. So a lot of people use tournaments for this. In fact, I think it's one of like the base elements of why tournaments are so popular, is you are committing to a timeline for at least building your miniatures for most games. But for a lot of people, of like completing that, like that cycle of like, you know, check, plan, do, check, plan, do. It's the productivity cycle, basically, if you want to put it in like work terms. But for tabletop stuff, there's an element of work involved. So you're going to build, you're going to paint, you're going to play a game, and then you can repeat the cycle. So like Jordan and I doing the Escalation League for Infinity let us both finish projects we're doing. He's almost got every single NCA unit painted now. And I made sure I crushed out like my full league game list for the most part of Hakislam stuff, because I knew I would move on to other things. Same with like on Saturday, Rob's going to come down. We're going to play Legions Imperialis. I know I need to get XYZ things finished for us to be able to hang out for a day and play a game. So that motivation for me comes from that, like, not obligation, but that sense of like responsibility to make sure the other person has a good time. I have to get done what I need to get done to make that happen. And so I don't know who, like, I think that's one of the problems with kind of like game store gaming, is if all you ever play is pickup games, you don't have a relationship with the other person to feel that obligation to like get stuff done. That might interfere with your desire to do so. So that would be my thing, is like make a plan with somebody to play a game or hang out, and have that be the excuse for what you're doing, and you will tend to get stuff done more regularly, I think. To me, that's my personal thing. Let's see what the chat says about that. Gizmo Mathboy says, any Blood Bowl 7s in the pipeline? Well, Mike and I have been playing nothing but Warcry recently. We took a break from Blood Bowl for a minute. Probably we'll play some 7s at some point again, because we tend to hop games, but I think we're going to do Kill Team next. We're going to jump into Kill Team for a minute. Mike and I are cycling through the games we like, right? We like skirmish games. So we've played 6 games of Warcry, of which I think you'll see the first one on Wednesday for the second series of. And then we're going to move on to do Kill Team. We'll do the same cycle through Kill Team. And then, yeah, we'll come back to Blood Bowl, I'm sure, because that's his favorite game. Kevin Trader says, same, I don't know how to create this, but having a friend waiting for me to play a game is the only thing that motivates me. Absolutely. It's hard to create that, but like I have multiple people with multiple games, and that means that I'm always juggling like what the next thing I want to do is, and that helps a lot for me. Like that helps me a great deal with getting motivated to move on to the next thing, is that I know, even like for me, it's like, well, I need to play this with this person, this with this person. So I want to get this completely done, because then I've got a bunch of time to get this other, maybe larger project finished. And then I'll have like free minutes to then do something that I want to do. So yeah, I don't know how to create that for somebody, but if you have gaming friends, maybe you need to become the motivator organizer one, because that's usually me in my gaming group being like, yeah, let's do this, and here's the project, and here's the thing, and we'll meet back and do this later. You know what I mean? Like, so like I created that escalation document for Jordan, and it gave him a ton of like boost to like actually finish his NCA, his Neo-Terrans, because he was excited to play through that series of games, and like to have the reward of playing a game a little bit at a time. And that's why escalation leagues work. I think that's why like slow grows work. Like, I think that's why like a bunch of things work, and you can build it around doing stuff in bits and pieces, so you're not like killing yourself doing it all at once. There's a bunch of benefit to that, I guess is what I'm saying. Mike Forsten says, I definitely got into indie skirmish games more because they're so easy to complete the loop. I typically get a small squad painted in like 1 or 2 weeks, a whole army hover. Yeah, exactly. That's like, and that also I think helps with my like scatterbrainness, is if I'm not getting excited about a giant like army game, I know I can conceivably get that stuff done in like a reasonable amount of time and then move on to the next thing. So having like I think a reasonable sort of like workload then lets me also sort of submit to that like sort of gaming ADHD that I have, where I can't focus on like the chasing of like getting it done is what excites me, and the discovering new things is what gets me excited about this like tabletop hobby. Just like trying new things, just like filming things new ways. And like you've seen my energy go up doing things like Grimdark Media and doing RPGs and like filming in different spaces. Like if I'm chasing doing new stuff all the time, I don't get bored and I don't get lazy. So yeah, it's I think there's like it's just know thyself stuff, you know. It's just like to thine own self be true. Like if that's the way you hobby, pick projects you know you can get through in a reasonable amount of time, and give yourself deadlines so that you can focus and get them done. And the more you know your hobby, the more satisfied you are by like the actual completion of it, I think. Zug1974 says, I've found that the 5-core, so like 5 parsecs and 5 leagues games, are a great way to fulfill the build, paint, play cycle for yourself. Absolutely. It was like, I think all of those like journaling style games give you that satisfaction of getting to play a game. And because it's inherently sort of designed to like surprise and delight you, it has that like, what's the word? It has that like fake GM. It's a lot like this. It's a lot like if you couldn't play an RPG by yourself, then, you know, like if you don't need a DM, basically, if you don't have a DM, then you can have this be the dungeon master for you. That was the idea behind these. So I think these are definitely a ancestor of these like journaling style games today. And Jay's been introducing me to tons of stuff like that in the RPG world too, where there's like solo RPGs and lots of these like one DM, one player RPGs, because I think that over time, designers and writers and artists try to make things for themselves. And it's a common problem that you don't have other people to play with. So creating something that fulfills that need or niche, even in like a light way, because like the Parsecs games and also like the five games, I guess is what they're called, and also like these like light RPGs recognize that's a problem, but don't do it in like a heavy-handed way. They don't require too much work so that you get scared off from them, or you don't enjoy the process. Like you just want to be able to enjoy what you're doing, and so it's fairly rules light, like processes, steps heavy, but rules light, so that you get like a cool experience every single time. Daryl Barnes says, my wife harasses me all the time for booking my free time out, sometimes 3-4 weeks out, just to make sure I'm getting my games in. I mean, yeah, like absolutely. It's funny how much of my life is run by calendars and like Google meeting requests and stuff like that, because if without it, if you give me free time, I will fill that free time almost immediately. If I wander around this place, I'm never not doing something, but I probably couldn't tell you what I've done all day, because I'm picking at like 50 different things as I go around. I'll like clean a corner of the studio, or like build something, or sit and paint, or edit a video for like half an hour. Like if I don't have my time actually if I don't have it written down, what I do need to get, I keep seeing these on social media, is there's like a productivity stopwatch. It's like a little magnetic stopwatch you can set to like allow you to focus, because you can see the minutes counting down. I really do need to get one of those, I think. I think that's like I could see myself responding well to that. So yeah, having things that like actually break it down for you and show you the time you're spending on things is a great idea. Gizmo Math Boy says, interesting that as a mostly tabletop RPG DM in Hyperborea, I don't have to worry about motivating myself, I guess because I have a built-in group of players and such. I think that's true. I think being a dungeon master, especially, because you're the one organizing everything, it's like being a party planner, you know what I mean? Or like a personal assistant. Like you have to be the one that's on schedule because that's your job, and you're the one that's organizing another group of people through the experience. So like, you don't really worry about the time management stuff, because the job is literally the time management stuff. And that motivation's like keeping you moving all the time. There's been a bunch of like news articles and TV articles about this guy who's actually in Stratford, Ontario. He's well, not local, but he's relatively local. He's probably like an hour away from me, who has been running the same like D&D campaign for like 40 years. And I think that's an example of of that in like real life, where you've got this person who's just got new players coming into his 40-year-old D&D campaign all the time, because now it's just cool to have been part of it. And that's motivated him to paint thousands of figures and organize this whole thing, which I think is super cool. All right, let's go back and take another question from the mailbag. Sharfay Engel says, do you already have end of year plans? Will you be doing a project just for yourself? I do have a project just for myself in the wings, but I can't decide which one to do. So I might just make you guys decide on my January project, because I always do a January project for the new year. I have a couple projects actually that I want to do. One is like a group project. I want to get the studio guest calendar going again. And having like ripped apart and organized everything, I have probably the models to do like at least 3 different AOS armies and 3 different 40k armies that I don't have like a ton of interest in doing. So I kind of wanted to do like a blind bag style event where we ran like a little like New Year, new army thing, Tale of 4 Gamers kind of stuff. But actually maybe successfully did it, because now I have the space in the back where I can host like a bunch of people playing at the same time. And just blind box up a bunch of armies and be like, hey, if you want to be part of this, here's what the plan is. Here's the schedule for it. Here, you come grab one of these boxes. We do a draft. You don't know what's in the boxes, but they're from each of the major factions. So I have like a Xenos army, a Chaos army, an Imperial army, and what's the last thing? Xenos, Imperium, Chaos. I guess just those 3. Yeah. And then we do like 3 of the Grand Alliances, do like Order, Destruction, Chaos, and Death. Maybe I'll do 4, and then we'll like randomly grab them. What would the other one be? It's Xenos, Chaos, Imperium. I guess I would just do like another Xenos army, like 2 Xenos and a Chaos and an Imperium, and have that be it. Like, or maybe have the Tyranids be their own faction, because they kind of almost are their own faction. Do like Xenos, Tyranids. Yeah, maybe do that. And then just look at Tale of 4 Gamers thing. And I have to pick last, but we do like a Yankee swap. Oh, Yankee swap would be fun. So the first person, we draft for whoever gets to go first. They get to open it, and they can either pass to the person to the left of them can either take that or also grab one of the boxes. That'd be super fun. We could like record the Yankee swap and do like a New Year, New Army thing. Yeah, maybe we'll do that. We'll do Yankee swap on like New Year, New Army. That's one of the things I want to do. And then I'll cycle back and forth between Mordheim and 3rd edition 40k for the Just For Me thing, because I have all the stuff to do the Mordheim thing and I have all the stuff to do 3rd edition 40k, and I want to do both. It's probably going to end up being Mordheim, but I'll have you guys vote on it. You guys can decide if it's Mordheim or 3rd edition 40k. I think that's what I want to do. What's going on in the chat? Oh my god, we're flying through the hour. Kudos Budo says, the 5 parsecs got me back into painting minis after a 20-year break. I think that's so cool. I think that's such a great, like, that's such a kudos for it. Weirdly, kudos Budos. But like, that's such a kudo to those 5 core games, because they let you do like snack size painting every week, and then have the payoff every week of having like a little encounter. So like, you roll up to see what your encounter is. You see the bad guy, you paint the bad guys for that encounter, you play through that encounter, and then you go to your next week. And so you have like your week's work laid out for you. So like, you do the journaling, it generates the encounter, you paint the models for that encounter, you play through it, and then you get to see what you're painting next week. It's almost like an advent calendar, you know what I mean, for like miniatures. I think that's super cool. Now all I can think about though, now that we're talking about it, is doing that Yankee swap thing for different games. I'm gonna ask in the advent count in the counter thing if people would be interested in coming down maybe over the holidays, and we'll do our like holiday Yankee swap if they want to come down and they get an army basically, and then we do like the thing. I think that'd be super fun. Zug1974 says, Kudos Bros, the 5 core guy did that. I think it's called Weasel Tech or something. It's a Wargames fault. The Battletech Mercenaries one. Yeah, Weasel Tech is basically Battletech, but 5 parsecs. It's very cool. I have a copy of it, actually. Mike Grimshaw says, I made it late as always. I have a question. What part of the world is Clarence in now, and when is he coming back? Because you love him. He's closer to you than he is me. He's up towards Barrie. So he's like northern Ontario, because he's working out there now. He had like it's like Vaughan-ish, like around the 400 basically, because he's got a condo out there, and him and his partner live up that way, and he's still working. I think he's working for Peel as a teacher. So the reason Clarence isn't around is because he's a teacher. The only time he usually comes in is summer. And this summer was a blowout for me. I didn't have that many people in just because of the way everything went. He actually emailed me to say, can I come down? And I was like, I will not have a studio. When you want to come down right now, August is a write-off. And he wanted to come down in August. But he's mostly been playing A Song of Ice and Fire. I think that's his like primary game right now. He's like running the tournaments and doing like I think he did the Great Canadian Open for A Song of Ice and Fire and a bunch of that stuff. He's still really passionate about it. He loves Rank and Flank, but I'm sure Clarence will be excited about the old world when that comes back around, because he loves Warhammer Fantasy Battle too. He's a huge Rank and Flank guy. So yes, I haven't chatted with him in a minute because of like just we didn't get together this summer, but I'm sure the old world will interest him, so we'll be chatting. Matt Tarpley says Gamels is the first models I painted since I was a teenager. Oh, that's awesome. I mean, that was the whole point of Gamma Wolves, was take cool robot models you didn't have the ability to play really a game with, and then and then get to like put them on the table and play a game, which is one of my favorite things to do, is the just because kind of like wargaming or tabletop gaming. You know what I mean? All right, I only got one question left in the mailbag, so you guys are gonna have to fill it up. I'm gonna have to actually like completely like take stuff out of it. Actually, I have a question from Brian Sheen, but I don't know if he deleted it or I did, because it's just an empty cell, or if it's in there. No, there's nothing to copy paste. Maybe he just like started writing his name and then didn't actually write a question. But Albert Yen from California says, what do you think keeps an IP making mediocre later stuff like Aliens and Terminator? And what do you think the magic variable is that refreshes an IP like Furiosa? That is a very interesting question. I watched a really interesting interview the other day about how you should just leave stuff alone for a while. And sometimes it's really important to let stuff sit and marinate, and how that comes into real conflict when companies want to chase success. And they want to and it's part of what I talked about in the difference between art and products in a life cycle, right? You can only, here's the recipe for success. You need people to be discovering your product from the first time constantly to get away with repackaging your product and reselling it over and over again. So for instance, a great example is, because tabletop gaming, I think the average like tabletop gamer probably has like a 5-year lifespan. Not everybody becomes a lifelong tabletop hobbyist. They encounter it, they chase it for a while, they move on to other hobbyists. That's actually typical of every hobby, though. I don't think that's an indictment of tabletop gaming. I think that's just the way we are with our interests. Like, people get really excited about yoga for 5 years and stop doing it. Or people really want to repair a car, their favorite car, and they do it and they don't do it again. They don't go on to become like mechanics. They fix this cool car they always wanted to fix, and then they've done it and then they move on. You need to have a constant cycle of people discovering you, though, to be able to have it always feel fresh and new if you're recycling the same thing over and over again. And so I think that was the problem, was when you get too many things back to back to back, like the Marvel of it all or the Star Wars of it all, it stops feeling interesting and it just becomes a variation on a theme because of that 4-quadrant. We want to sell this to as many people as possible. We want to hit the middle as often as we can. And so I think the reason that Fury Road was as incredible and seminal as it was that instead of making 20 like Mad Max films with Gibson, he took a break and he made Happy Feet, right? Like, he made a bunch of Happy Feet movies. Like, he didn't keep making the same movie over and over and over again. And so when George Miller decides, you know what, I think it's time to come back to this universe that I loved and that made me who I am, you get the opportunity to have it feel new again because it's 20 years later. Like, what's the space between Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome and Fury Road? Like, a lifetime, right? Was Tom Hardy? I think Tom Hardy he was probably born, but he was basically a child when Beyond Thunderdome comes out. And so because Gibson's a young man. And so you've got this giant gap in between these two things that allows people to appreciate them, but not still be attached to them, and allows a new audience to discover them for the first time. And so you have this great, I think, like renaissance where they also didn't try and remake it. They didn't try and start from scratch and make the whole thing over again. They just said, what if we did another movie in this universe, but we did it 35 years after the first one, which I think was 78 or 79, I'm pretty sure. Like, I'm pretty sure the original Mad Max is still in the 70s. And then, you know, we take today's technology and we make an incredible film. And unfortunately, most things have, you would think there'd been enough time actually between Alien Resurrection and Prometheus to make that movie. And I would argue there was, and I would argue Prometheus actually was great. Like, I actually really like Prometheus. I think Prometheus failed more from like a writing point of view and than it did an acting point of view, or like anything else. Like, Prometheus was I think it actually, I don't think it's writing. I think it was editing. Like, I think it was an editing failure. I think if they'd shown the story in a different order, in a different way, it could have been fine. Like, it could have been just fine. And the same goes for Covenant. Because I think Covenant's the stronger of the two films. I actually really like Covenant. You can't have Covenant without Prometheus, though. And I think they were fine. I think they were fine films. I think the problem was that they were expected to be something they weren't. So yeah, I think that the problem is time. You need to let things breathe. I think Disney should just stop making Marvel stuff. I think that Marvel should be just done. Just stop making them for a while. Stop making Marvel movies. Stop making Star Wars movies. Go back to making animated movies again for a while. Just take a big break on all that stuff, because you haven't made a great Pixar animated movie in a while. They're not great. They're just, again, four quadrant kind of garbage. And if you give some room to yourself, you'll be able to make something cool. But the problem is, you can't, because you're not making A24 movies. You're a publicly traded company. Your stock price is something that you're actually constantly chasing. You're not making art anymore. You're making a product. And you have to churn out that product at all times. So I think they're between a rock and a hard place. Whereas like Fox Searchlight could make a good Alien movie if they wanted to. Just get an Alien script off the blacklist though, and have like A24 make it. Don't have anybody else make it. Have a movie that we find out is an Alien movie at the end of the film. That's how they need to actually do it. They need to make a movie for its own sake and then have the reveal be it's an Alien movie at the end, right? Like, they made Predator movies way too often. Like, I think Predator's a better example than Aliens, because they never stopped making Predator movies for some reason. And then they just kept making Alien versus, they tried to like incorporate Alien to like revitalize it, and didn't really go. And so I have some real fondness for some of the like mid-aughts Predator movies, but like, they're not good from any stretch of the imagination. They're not good movies. They're just kind of okay-ish movies. All right, let's see what's going on in the chat. Don Chimunster says, we got to 20. Oh my God, we got 20 people live. I'm so excited. We finally broke 20 after me doing this like 4 or 5 times. Gamble was what introduced me to GMG, and I was looking for Frostgrave, but Mecha, and it fit the bill perfectly. I'm so excited that was a niche that you were actually looking for. It's amazing. Mike Forson says, I think having someone who clearly likes the product in charge helps too, like Dread. That seemed like a passion project. Absolutely. Seth Drax just said Babe. Like Babe Pig in the City. Gizmo Mathboy says, part of what the pause was because Miller couldn't make Fury Road, but enough happened for him to really make it the best version he could. Absolutely. Kevin Mitchell's in for a live stream. Yay! And then Gizmo Mathboy says, much like Miller didn't make the Fury Road sequel because of the Hollywood crap, and we're getting Furiosa now. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I'm actually not as excited about Furiosa because I don't think George he's not making it, is he? Is he the director? I can't remember. I don't think he is. I think it's being made Hollywood-wise. And then Gizmo Mathboy says, yeah, Naomi Rapace got royally screwed in with the Prometheus Covenant movie. Yeah, like they just killed her off screen. That sucks. Like, it sucks to die off screen. But I mean, it's almost like a tradition for the best actors in any movie to get killed off, like Michael Biehn dying off screen in Alien 3 in the Fincher movie. Like, you don't even get a Michael Biehn. Like, he survives. He last girls it all the way to the end of the film and then just gets like killed off camera, and you don't even, do you see his corpse? I don't think you even see his corpse. They just like dissect him off screen, right? Like you get a nothing like comeuppance for the hero basically of Alien, or Aliens. Which I mean, writing wise, I get why Fincher did it, because you can't have Ripley continue to be this constant survivor protagonist if you have someone helping them the way that you'd kind of like get a male lead to do that. And I still kind of wish Cameron, I guess Cameron almost wrote that from the point of view of even Michael Biehn, this like elite soldier, needs to be saved by Ripley at the end, because he's like almost dead. He's like burned through with acid, and she has to save everybody at the end. So I get why they killed him off camera, but still sucks. Kudos Buddha says Prometheus and Covenant are super grim dark, and I think the general public just isn't used to them. Completely agree. Like, I think that was the like. I think that they were almost too artsy for what they were. You know what I mean? Like, they were almost too artsy for a Hollywood audience, and that's almost the worst. That's almost why I think an A24 is so successful. Is they can take those non-four quadrant risks, right? They can take those like make everybody happy risks. And it's funny because I'm going to talk more about this in Grimdark Media this week, so I don't want to spoil it all, but I have a lot of thoughts on that. I have a lot of thoughts for art not making you feel good. I think sometimes art should make you feel bad, because that's also an emotion, and art's designed to pull out an emotion. And we're so completely used to art making us feel good now, to feel heroic or powerful or strong, that we don't accept being challenged by art anymore and made to feel like a negative emotion, like feel upset. I'm very like conscious of how art should make you feel a bunch of things. And all we really get right now is we get art that makes us happy for the most part in the mainstream Hollywood. We don't have art make us feel sad. Like, so many of like the classic like go-to movies are ones that make us feel like our guts ripped out and sad. But they don't make those really anymore. They don't make tragedies really anymore. They don't make things that make us feel like you're not going to get like a Requiem for a Dream today. You know what I mean? Where at the end of it, you have had your guts ripped out by it. Like, you don't get like a real sad Darren Aronofsky. You don't get a Pi. You don't get Christopher Nolan making Pi, where a guy's literally drilling through his own head at the end of a movie to make the numbers stop. Like, you only get kind of pablum, and I think that's a problem. I would agree. Don Chambers says, IMDb does say Miller's directing Furiosa. Oh, fantastic. Okay. For some reason, I didn't think it was George Miller directing it. I'm glad it is. Daryl Barton says, we talked about Prometheus and Covenant in a disproportionately high amount in our office. We love them, but still love to criticize them. Yeah, it's funny because I think that like, I think they are legitimately good movies in that universe and good stories in that universe. And I think that we were hypercritical of them. One, because Ridley Scott came back to it, which was always hard to have a director come back to his own creation. And two, because some of the writing choices are like we almost apply like video game logic of like make the optimal choice at all times in films now. And we don't allow for people to make poor choices or to act in a way that isn't what we think is the correct way. And so that we get very critical of like writing if it doesn't tell a story or make us feel something. Ooh, Ultramont is here. Hi. And then Matthew Jarpley says, the Medpod scene in Prometheus is the most harrowing thing I've watched. Yeah, the Medpod scene is a lot. Noomi Rapace does an incredible job in that movie. She has so many like solo scenes and so many scenes where she does a Sigourney Weaver level acting job of being alone, except this time there isn't even puppets, right? Like Weaver at least had like puppets and like actual objects to like act against. Noomi Rapace has like CGI for the most part. She has so little practical stuff to work with. She does a incredible job acting in that movie. Zug 1974 says the Mad Max franchise is wild. It literally doesn't matter who Max is played by because he's just an audience insert and a smidgen of agency. It's true. he's almost a silent picture character, except for the first movie, except for Max Radatansky. I always have a problem pronouncing his last name, and it's such a weird last name for that movie, where he is on a revenge mission. Because you see his family life and you see his backstory, he literally doesn't matter. I love all the fan theories as to who Tom Hardy's Max is. I think the most prevalent one is that he's actually the feral kid from Thunderdome. Which I think makes complete sense. That's the one I adhere to the most, I think, is that character, that the feral kid from Thunderdome basically takes the example of, sorry, he's not the feral kid from Road Warrior. The other feral kids from Thunderdome are not Max. But he takes Max's example in Road Warrior to heart and becomes a hero. Like, becomes a person that survives and survives and survives, but also is like compelled when push comes to shove to do the right thing and kind of like survive against the odds. I like thinking that he's the feral kid with the razor sharp boomerang from Road Warrior. I think that'd be fantastic if he was, because he'd have to find the car at some point, and the car is basically abandoned in Thunderdome because he's like pulling the car with like camels, I think, at the beginning of Thunderdome too. All right. Gives a Math Boy Miller is directing and wrote Furiosa. Okay, fantastic. That's sweet. Ultraman said, TO to Kill Team tournament this past Saturday. 14 attendees. Was a great time. We filled up one of those big cardboard boxes with toys for tots for a local game store. That's amazing. Fantastic. Good for you. Good job. Kill Team is such an underrated tournament game. I think it's probably a much better tournament game now than the points buy system was in Kill Team 2016. Not that I didn't love Kill Team 2016, but like you could still kind of game the system in that one. Having like the slot-based Kill Team, I think, is probably making it a much better overall roster system for a tournament. Jim Kerman says, totally psyched for Furiosa as soon as it exists. Yes, I think so too. Ultraman says, absolutely. Art should make you not only feel good, art should also make you question your values and preconceptions. Definitely. The Felix Gonzalez Torres free candy stuff is amazing at making you not feel great when you think about it. Definitely. I honestly think... Oh, the Feral Kid theory is great because of the music box thing that he has. Yes, absolutely. I do think that it should make you feel something. Sorry, did I see a trailer for Henry Cavill 40K thing? I haven't seen any trailers for it. I didn't know there was a trailer. The most recent trailer I saw actually was just something that Kevin Mitchell mentioned, is the Fallout trailer, which Cash and I watched actually this weekend. I'm excited for it. The only thing I'm struggling with right now from the trailer is I don't get retrofuturism from it. And I'll have a hard time if it isn't retrofuturistic. If it's not got that 1950s vibe. I'm hoping it does. And maybe it's how it's been shot so far. It feels shot very HD and without any kind of filter to it. And I didn't get 50s. I didn't get the rockabilly-ness of Fallout. Because the idea of what makes Fallout, again, a grimdark thing, is you have to juxtapose the cheery 1950s vision of the future with the horror that's happening around you. And it only works if those two things are constantly in friction with each other. That's what I think makes Fallout really work. And I didn't get quite enough retrofuturism in the trailer. Like, the Brotherhood power armor was very clean and silver. There was a lot more science fiction than sort of like grimy 50s look in it so far. I'm fine with it, and I'm super excited for the actors, because like I love that, like, you even in the trailer you see Walter Goggins, like you flash to him riding a horse dressed as a cowboy, and he does have a very 50s cowboy outfit on. Like, he has a very like Lone Ranger sort of like TV set 1950s like thing on. And then you flash forward to him as a ghoul, where he's clearly been ghoulified by the explosions. And like, that means he's clearly 100 and something years old, right? It feels like he's going to be the audience exposition for that. I suspect we're going to get a lot of backstory. Our Vault Dweller is the audience proxy coming out of the vault, discovering everything. And everybody's backstory is going to be told in like, everyone gets an episode flashback. So like Walter Goggins is like, here's my life before the bombs. Here's my life after the bombs. This is what a ghoul is. It's going to like teach the audience through a bunch of exposition. But so far, yeah, they missed an opportunity to have Ron Perlman do the intro. I think if not having Perlman do the exposition of the trailer feels like a mistake because that's so iconic and you would have that experience then for the first time if you're discovering it. If you're on-ramping to Fallout through this TV show, you're going to get that. And then not having sort of like a 1950s filter on everything makes it look a little too shiny for me. But those are minor gripes. I'm still excited for it. I'm still excited to see what happens in a Vault. I'm still excited to see like a live action thing for it. And I'm a huge Fallout fan. So, and also like Walter Goggins can just do no wrong. So I will watch anything with Goggins in it. I think he's fantastic. And the dude who played, what's his name? Walter, the guy at the campfire, the guy who's, he's the lost bad guy, just being the same character again, just being the lost bad guy again. He's the leader of the others. He just looks like he's the exact same character again. I'm excited for that. But yeah, I don't know about a Walt, like, so sorry to talk more about the Fallout stuff. I think that the Henry Cavill 40K thing is going to be, I don't know. I think I'm going to compare in my head. I'm going to compare anything that Cavill 40K thing turns out to be with Astartes. And that's going to be like, if I was to rank all the Grimdark Media for 40K right now, Astartes is on top. Then it's just ranking everything else after Astartes as far as films go. Not all media. I just mean like as far as like visual film media. I'm going to compare the storytelling to that. So it's going to have to be on par with that. And if it's not, then I'm just going to be like, you shot your shot. You spent a lot of money. You made something. Is it going to be as good as it could be? Nah, but it'll be it won't be their first try because they're making all kinds of stuff right now. They're making all kinds of stuff right now with Black Library's Armor Plus. So we'll see. Gizmo Boy says the Feral Kid theory is great because of the music. Oh, I read that already. Ultramenta says, I've never been a huge Fallout person. My post-nuclear series of choice is always Stalker. I'm hoping that your Grimdark Media series eventually touches on it. Oh yeah, Stalker and Metro. We're going to get there. Because obviously there's a Metro novel series too that I might do for literature. Because the Metro 2033 series starts as books and then gets turned into a video game and adapted. And they're both very good. There's so much Russian, like post-nuclear, post-apocalyptic stuff with Roadside Picnic, Stalker. If you start at Roadside Picnic, you go to Stalker movie, you go to Stalker game, Metro 2033, Metro 2033 game. There's a rich vein of media for us to dig into in that whole segment, which I'm very excited about. And I'm definitely, it's on the list. It's just, where do we start? And if we start with media, I think we start with the book because everything comes after Roadside Picnic, right? Dan Sprinkle asked, have you been reading the Siege of Terra books? I have not actually gotten, the Solar War is where I stopped reading Horus Heresy for the last little while because I want them all to be out because I read books really fast. I'm not going to want to wait. So like, I'm going to want to rip through that entire series basically by the authors I like, probably skipping some of the others I don't like. And that means that I want to be done. So I will definitely get there. But the Solar War is where I basically like stopped off at that point. Kevin Trader said, when Dagoon kickstarted a Stalker film project. Cool. I didn't know that. And then Kudos Buddha says, I love the Metro games and books. Yes, me too. They're fantastic. That whole like idea of living in the subway and like that brutalist architecture and the Soviet era survival stuff being unpacked basically as because it's retrofuturism in that 1960s, 70s and 80s brutalist sort of like Soviet era architecture and look for everything delivers that same retrofuture idea, mostly because it was never updated, right? So like you get that same kind of like kernel of old but new, like locked in time now because the apocalypse basically freezes everything in that time period, which is again why I think Stalker and Metro and all that stuff work so well. Kudobu says I looked into the Siege of Terror stuff. There's 50 plus books across the series, and it's daft. Yeah, it's a lot of books now, like so many books. I remember when the Horus Heresy was going to be 9 books. It is definitely not 9 books anymore. But holy crap, it's 1 o'clock. I think we're done. Thanks everybody. Thanks everyone in the chat. Oh my God, we got to 23 people live. Yeah, we broke 20. I'm going to get 30 next week. I know it. I'm so excited that like this process is working. And I think the more consistent I am with it, the more you guys are going to get to hang out and actually get to chat with you. Because it's so great to actually talk to you guys live. And of course, I'm going to, if you want to catch this again, or if you're a patron and you want to catch me live in the chat, this time around, I'm actually going to edit this because of I'm now recording on a different camera, as you guys can obviously see. I'm going to take the actual raw footage from this, edit it properly, throw it up with an actual like beginning, and then I'll sit in the chat I'll do a premiere for everybody else on YouTube. So if you didn't catch this live on Patreon and you want to just chat with me, it won't be me. The person on camera won't be the person that's chatting with you in the chat, because the person on camera is obviously talking to the patrons. I'll be the future version of myself typing really fast. So if you wonder how I'm typing and responding to comments in real time in the chats, because I'm doing a premiere. I do this every week. But if you listen to this now, you'll know that for the future, for when this premieres, for the next one of these. And you can hang out and talk in the chat if you didn't catch me live on this. So yeah, thanks for hanging out, everybody. Hope you have a great week. Let's do 30. Mike said, thanks and take care. Ultraman, just keep up the amazing works. Thank you, everybody. This is fantastic. And I will see you for the next one of these on Monday. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.